Welcome to the Fire and Earth podcast with your hosts, Jason Mefford and Kathy Gruber. Fire and Earth, giving you the keys to unlock your limitless potential.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Fire and Earth podcast. I'm your co-host, Kathy Gruber.
And I'm Jason Mefford. I don't know. I wanted to get that look on Kathy's face.
Are we yodeling? Are we calling sheep or pigs?
Yodel-a-hee-hoo.
Oh, my God.
All right. Well, no, anyway. We're waking everybody up, right, at the beginning of the episode, because we're going to talk about how so many people, and it might be you as well, might be a little asleep in a hypnotic trance. Now, I know we've talked about hypnosis a lot, right? Kathy's a hypnotist. There are a lot of great benefits from hypnosis.
Yep.
But I see a lot of people walking around in a hypnotic trance in life that is not the kind of hypnotic trance that we want to be in.
Yep. Did you see the movie Shaun of the Dead?
Yes.
That's what it is.
Shaun of the Dead.
Everyone's walking around just with their phone kind of going, That's exactly what Jason's talking about.
Well, it's funny because you bring that up. I was in the doctor's office yesterday, my little checkup, and looking or just kind of observing the people in the waiting room, and almost everybody was on their phone.
Yep.
And I wasn't. I mean, I was doing some other stuff, thinking about some different things, but it's interesting how. And so again, I mean, for everybody that's listening, right, you might be like, oh, come on, Jason, what? I don't do that, right? Well, at the time that we're recording this, right? And so I don't know when you're going to be listening to it, but we're into the last month. We're into December of 2022, right? Now, I'm sure if you're like me, and Kathy, if you're this way too, but it's kind of like, where did 2022 go?
Yeah.
I don't know. That so much of the time, all of a sudden, it's like we kind of wake up, and it's like, where did all this time go? What did I do with my life? What happened, right? And so it's a normal thing that happens because we get ourselves distracted, right, with everything else that's going on, that a lot of times we don't end up, and these times when we wake up, it's like, what the fuck? I didn't accomplish what I was planning to accomplish this year, right? Well, yeah, because we were probably asleep for half of the year, effectively.
I would think the majority of people walk through their lives completely asleep and unaware. It's in a microcosm, you're driving down the freeway and you suddenly go, the hell, did I pass my exit? Or you're like, why am I driving to work? It's Saturday. Like you get on autopilot, right? Mm-hmm. And we react in the same way we always have. We go to the same meal. This is how we've always done it. We drive the same way to work. We get on autopilot. We automatically, without even thinking about it, scroll on our phones and look at stuff. And there's a new cat video. And, we get into this Shaun of the Dead state where when people come to me for hypnosis, I actually have to unhypnotize them to hypnotize them. Mm-hmm. And, I'm in Vegas pretty frequently with conferences, and I see people sitting in front of slot machines going, there's practically drool, right? And what's interesting is hypnosis is a hyper relaxed state. That's one of the ways people describe it. But one of the ways we get into hypnosis is overstimulation. So too many instructions, too many lights, too many sounds, too much physical touch, and you just kind of go, ugh, and you just drop into a state. And I remember being at one of the conferences, and I said to one of the guys, I'm like, hey, I'm just completely overstimulated right now. I need to veg out for a second. I'm going to go stare at a poker machine. And he went, what? And I said, it's going to drop me right down into a state. And it was the best $20 I spent. Just kind of sitting there brainlessly doing something. It was beautiful. Because I knew what it was doing and I allowed myself to go into that. Now I lost $20, still cheaper than a hypnosis session.
But you knew, right? So you were choosing to do that because again, so for everybody that's listening, Kathy just dropped a big old bomb on you that you probably didn't even realize. And again, if you've been to Vegas or you've been to casinos, there is a reason why there are so many noises, so many lights, such color everywhere, because that gets you into a hypnotic state. Now, why do they want you to do that? So they can take your money. So you're just sitting there with the drool, right?
Yep.
And so, the problem is, and like Kathy was saying, when you being in a hypnotic state is great,
Oh, feels so good.
right? But it also means that you're suggestible. And so that's why, people that are trying to take your money will do that. They will put you into a hypnotic trance effectively,
Yep.
and then suggest to you that you need to go buy XYZ product. You need to drop more
Yep.
money into the slot machine. Which again is fine if you're consciously realizing that. But what happens is these companies, these people are very good at doing it. And you don't even realize it's happening to you.
Yep. Yeah. I got a sales call the other day. I think it was probably the best sales call I've ever gotten. I almost asked the guy if he wanted to work for me. It was insidious in the most creative way. It was a sales call. He wanted me to donate to whatever. And I answered the phone. I said, "Hi, this is Kathy." And he goes, "Hey, Kathy, this is Jim over at something Veteran Society," as if I knew him. And I went, "Oh, hi, Jim." He goes, "How are you today?" And I said, "I'm great. How are you?" He goes, "I'm so good. Thank you for asking." He goes, "Kathy, I really want to thank you for your support over the last couple of years." And now my brain is going, wait, my support over the last couple of years, so I have to go back now. Do I know this organization? Have I given to them before? And while my brain is off thinking about that, he goes, "We're really hoping to count on your support this year because, we've got so many veterans who are homeless and they're having mental health problems and they can't get jobs. So now you're playing on my sympathies." So now my brain is confused. He's talking. Now I'm a fast talker. He's talking slightly too fast for the normal person. He talks the same way I do. So you have this sort of fast talking, like confuse the brain, play on sympathies. Now the ask, "Can we count on you to give more money?" And I went, and I kind of knew what he was doing. He had a great voice too.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'm kind of strapped this year. I had a couple tragedies. So, not going to be able to help out this year. He goes, "Well, great. Can you still have a good Christmas?" And I went, "What?" That confused. He goes, "Will you still have a good Christmas?" I said, "Well, yeah, I'm going to see family and stuff." I mean, and at that point he hung up because he realized he wasn't getting any money from me. But like, I just watched his technique of to put them off center, play on the sympathies, ask a question. It's right out of NLP. It's the sales Bible of what he did. But he had me in this place where my brain kind of scrambled, which is what we do sometimes in hypnosis. Look over there, look over here, look over here, and sleep. And then you're like, you're so overstimulated, your brain is so confused, you just drop into a state of hypnosis, and then you're suggestible, and then you're vulnerable.
Yep. Well, and that's the thing is are you? There's nothing wrong with being in a hypnotic trance, right? I'm not saying that, but are you putting yourself there for a particular purpose, to work on something, to do with something, to chill out, right? Because again, being in a hypnotic or altered state is beautiful. It's blissful, right? It's blissful. But, unfortunately, there's a bunch of people, right, that use it to harm you.
Yeah.
Or to get you to, I think I know the guy you're talking about, because I get the same call from the same guy. Sometimes it's a police group, sometimes it's a veterans group, sometimes but it's the same voice. When I pick, it's the same fucking voice. And it's like, dude, I know who you are. And
right.
No, you're not whoever, right? Because I hear the same voice every time.
Interesting.
But like you said, very good at using those techniques to get you off, right?
Yep.
And so why is this a problem, right? Well, okay, you might give money to some charity you weren't expecting, big deal, right? Unless it's huge amounts of money, right? But why is it a big deal? Because when you're in those states, when you don't intend to be in those states, it takes you away from what you really want to do.
Yep.
And so because of that, your life just passes by. And again, so here's a little analogy for you. Think of the Matrix movie. All the people that were asleep in the pods, right? That's what a lot of this world is like, asleep in your pods, just happy to be there. right? And when you end up waking up, you realize that, man, I didn't accomplish those things I wanted to do. No, I don't really want to be in this job anymore. Why have I hung out in this job for the last 5 years that I hate?
Yep.
Why have I stayed in this relationship that's abusive? Right? Why have I, in blah, 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 right? I mean, it can go on. And that's why a lot of times we end up waking up in the middle of our life and go, shit, I've got less time to live than I've already lived.
Yep.
Right? That's what leads to midlife crisis and all these things like this, because people have stayed in this trance for so long.
Yep.
And finally they're like, whoa, I got to make some changes. And sometimes those changes are pretty radical at that point.
Yeah. So let me give you sort of the technical reason why this happens. So the most vulnerable populations to this are young people, old people, and people who are on substances. So alcohol, being under 13 or 14 and being over a certain age, to quote Mike Mandel, your critical faculty is not as strong. This is why they have passed laws that you can't advertise to children, because an 8-year-old sees you need this and they go, I need that, and they will freak out because you just gave them a fact that they don't know how to dispute, because to them everything that's said is true. Santa Claus, Easter Bunny, all this stuff. And as we get older, our brain doesn't function as well, so that critical thinking kind of goes away. This is why people, no offense to the Fox News people, but I have family members and in-laws who all day long stare at Fox News and take every word as truth, or MSN or CNN or whatever it is. They fall for the, hey, I'm here to fix your TV. Okay. And they get robbed blind. They are the ones that are standing at the mailbox waiting for their $1 million check because they fell for the online scam. Alcohol is also dangerous because that does the same thing. It dulls that. So this is how it's easy for men to be predatory to women who have been drinking. So this stuff just isn't, you might wake up one day and realize your life is gone or half over. You might also wake up in a bed that you didn't plan to because you weren't thinking clearly, because you were lulled into this state of safety when you shouldn't have been. So it puts us in, I'm going to take it to a dark place again, but it's a very vulnerable state. And I see so many young women who are being taken advantage of by a guy who is playing that game, taking advantage of that semi-hypnotic state. And it can be really dangerous. It can be really dangerous. So keeping yourself as awake and trained to be awake as you can, and counting yourself out occasionally, is something that all of my teachers have recommended, right? If you've been staring at the TV for a while, if you're sitting in a lecture and you start to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, eyes open, wide awake. Some of us are more vulnerable to that than others. And every once in a while, just count yourself out. Make sure you are present in this moment with all of your critical faculties, and that you can make choices from a place of presence and not from a place of being asleep.
Yeah.
That's my speech. That's my TED Talk. Thanks for coming.
Well, and it's great. And to kind of tie back into, we were talking about Vegas before. No surprise that they give free drinks when you're actively playing, folks.
Yep.
Because not only do the lights and the everything else, help you get into that, but then when you lower your inhibitions with alcohol or any other substance, right? Yeah. And so again, it's and the sad thing is, so many times people will use alcohol, drugs, sex, other things as a way of trying to distract or get them away from maybe some of the pain that they're feeling.
Yep.
But the problem is it usually leads to more pain, right? Because you're trying to escape something, and instead of escaping into a hypnotic trance where you can be guided by somebody who's trained, who has your best intentions, or that you're doing, on yourself, actively in your spiritual practices or other stuff as well. I mean, meditation is, and prayer and some of the thoughtful things like that from a spiritual practice are ways, again, of connecting with ourselves, getting into that altered state, which is good. Yeah. It's good. But if you're getting into those states and placing yourself in positions where other people are kind of manipulating, coercing you, it leads to the more hurt, right? Yep. And so again, it's so much of your intention behind it in trying to escape, right? Yep. You're actually making things worse for yourself.
Yep. And dangerous,
dangerous.
Whether it's I remember my grandfather, he fell for all of it. He drank, he was an alcoholic. he started to lose all of his faculties. And, my dad would go over to take care of him and discover the TV was gone. And he's sitting there staring at a wall. And some guy knocked on the door and said, "I'm here to fix your TV." And my grandfather went, "Okay." And just let him take the TV. Just let him walk out of the house. My dad showed up to find people putting a new roof on because the guy said, "Hey, we're working on your neighbor. You need a new roof." And my grandfather went, "Okay, here's a check." And he was scammed all the time. And I hate to say that there are people who are going to take advantage of the elderly, of young people, of drunk people, of stoned people, it's unfortunately we're living in a world where that is a risk. And so keeping everything as present as you can. I'm incredibly vulnerable to other people's energies and stuff like that. And during my last hypnosis session, she reminded me, she's like, "Kathy, are you counting yourself out? Because you're around, I'm coaching people who are having trauma and death and grief and marital discord. And, I don't want to go home sucking all that up."
Mm-hmm.
I count myself at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, eyes open, wide awake. Am I here? Am I present? Am I all together? Yes. Great. Okay. Now move on to the next thing.
So everybody wake up,
Wake up.
wake up.
Seriously.
Seriously, because most of, just observe, right? Like I did at the this week, right? Just go out and observe what's going on around you. When you go to places like the grocery store or the doctor's office or a restaurant, right?
Yes.
And just observe how other people are acting, and you will see that a vast majority of people are just on autopilot in this hypnotic trance. They are not present with the people that they're with.
Nope.
They're escaping somewhere else. And just to show you, people are doing this, and there's new things like artificial intelligence that are a way of making money by allowing people to escape into fictitious worlds. And a lot of these companies are already making billions of dollars.
Yeah.
As another way of escapism. And if you're always in a fantasy world and never in your real world, you are no different than those people in those pods in the Matrix.
Yep. Or Shaun of the Dead.
Or
also,
Shaun of the Dead.
Black Mirror on Netflix is one of my favorite series. And it talks so much about this, of how we become a slave to technology and how harmful technology can be. And, it's a fascinating series. The very first one of the first series of the first season, it's a different one. It's weird. It's about pigs. If you've watched it, you all know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to give it away. But don't take that as a indication of how the rest of the series is, because it's a weird one. But all that stuff, So count yourself up, go out and try to be awake. Notice those people who aren't, because you'll find them stopping in the middle of the aisle to look at their phone, or, they aren't aware of anything around them. And that's a dangerous place to be. So I am Kathy Gruver. I can be reached at kathygruver.com.
And I'm Jason Mefford. I can be reached at jasonmefford.com. So go out, have a great week, observe around you, and wake up!
Wake up!
Catch you on the next episode of the Fire and Earth Podcast.